You shouldn't get on the internet, Dave, because you went down a rabbit hole that led you to calling me late at night going, have you heard about the Backrooms?
It's a thing.
Welcome to the Chasing Mountains podcast. Your host, Dave Rumer and Jacob Colgan. Learning and growing from the best in business.
Welcome to the Chasing Mountains podcast. I'm Dave Rumer, Jacob Colgan.
What's up, buddy?
We are talking today about portals to other dimensions.
Put on your tinfoil hats. We're going deep, brothers.
This is Ancestors. Your sister's right over there.
She'll beat me up. She scares me.
Yes.
A simple yes. Portals to other dimensions. Mm-hmm. There's a few topics we want to cover as it relates to this. I know it at first seems not business related, but it is.
And it will be in the future.
Yes. Well, yeah, good point. Mm-hmm. So we want to talk a little bit about a topic that I'm sure we will talk a lot about in the future, but it's the Metaverse. I think
come on, could you have picked a better name? That's so sinister. Like the Metaverse.
Well, I don't think Facebook invented that.
Of course
idea.
he didn't, but he copyrighted it or
Zuckerberg?
Yes, he got it and made it his company's name, so he owns it now.
Yes. It's, I think, a sci-fi concept that dates back quite a ways. And actually, there's a lot of examples of this type of idea in sci-fi of this altered reality, where like The Matrix is one of those examples, I think, that was, that's a really excellent
Gosh, when that came out, version. That blew my mind.
Yeah.
When they said he was in, not an alternate reality, in a computer simulation, and it was all fake, and it broke my brain. I was like, oh my God, we're in a simulation. That's deja vus are just a glitch in the Matrix.
Yep. And now you hear that all the time.
Oh man. In the moment of having a deja vu, it feels not natural. Something feels just off. And so when they brought that into the script, my goodness, what a brilliant plot line.
Yeah.
But anyways, so topics today, run me through. You said Metaverse?
Yeah. So Metaverse, we're going to talk about Stranger Things with season 4 coming out. I'm
excited.
We're filming this the night before it releases. It releases on the 27th, season 4. So I think that we'll be releasing this probably over the weekend. So just in the days that follow. But yeah, it's, I think, much anticipated, but also featuring portals to other dimensions. So we want to touch on that. And then this new thing that I've been talking to you about called the Backrooms.
It's on the internet, and you shouldn't get on the internet, Dave, because you went down a rabbit hole that led you to calling me late at night going, have you heard about the Backrooms?
It's a thing. If you know about the Backrooms, comment. I want to know what you know, because now I'm totally down the rabbit hole. So,
well, let's sum it up and let's go back to the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about Stranger Things since it's releasing tomorrow.
Yeah.
You had told me earlier how much they spend per episode for the 4th season.
Do you remember?
I do, but just say it.
$30 million per episode was spent.
That breaks my brain.
In season 4.
Why? Okay, first off, why would they spend so much per episode? What is Netflix gaining from it? I know you know, but just let the listeners hear. Well,
so the theory is that one of the big things that Netflix is gaining is more members. Their stock price has been down in recent months, and they've had people leaving Netflix for other platforms for a variety of reasons. But I think they're seeing a big benefit. They're seeing people come back to the platform.
Well, we had read something earlier that they on purposely do this every season. They know that people love that show so much, they might leave Netflix and then just come back to it. You got to think about it. If
viewers do it on purpose.
Well, I mean, like for me, I'll log in. I wanted to see Lost in Space, and I would sign up, watch the season, and then be on it for a few months and then go away. You got to think about that. If 2 or 3 million people are doing that to watch, Stranger Things season 4, they're making so much more than 30 million an episode. Because you got to think, someone might come on and stay for 2 years. They may come on and stay for 6 months. And right now it is.
How much is they they'd need more than 2 or 3 million, I think, right? Because I mean, how much is a membership? I guess I'm sorry. I'm thinking monthly membership.
It's a monthly membership.
As long as they're on for a month, you're good.
$15 roughly.
21.
Is it really? Did it go up?
That's why we left.
Good Lord. Talk about inflation, but it's only 8.5%, Dave. Our money is becoming worthless. Oh my goodness. That's another topic for another day. Stranger Things, man.
It makes one want to seek an alternate reality.
Bum, bum, bum. I'm going to do that a lot this podcast.
Your tinfoil. I thought you were going to wear your tinfoil hat.
I was going to wear a tinfoil hat, but I've been working all day and I didn't get a chance to go. I don't walk around with tinfoil. Unlike some people. But I was going to wrap my hat in tinfoil. All right. So Stranger Things, run me through kind of a synopsis of what it is.
Yeah. So I need to probably review to get really in the weeds, but the basic plot line is that these kids in, I think it's Indiana, Hawkins, Indiana. And it takes place in the past. This is like, I think in the 80s, like in the late 80s.
It's so nostalgic feeling when you watch it.
It's so cool.
It feels like I'm watching like E.T. or something. And the way they color grade it and just the way the characters.
The clothes, the cars, the character. Yeah.
The kids that they hired are perfect for the roles.
Yes.
And it feels like your youth.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it is. Yeah. It is. It does feel like my youth. It was my youth.
You know, you just have a ragtag group of friends.
I was younger than them at the time, but
you don't care about who people are. You just, you love them because they're your friends, and you know, it's good. Anyways, I interrupted. Go ahead.
So, to cut to the chase, there is an interdimensional portal in time and space that somehow gets opened up right in the middle of their town, and they start sort of having some strange experiences. Where people are either going into the portal or creatures are coming out of the portal. And there is this girl with like psychokinetic powers,
11.
if that's the right word, 11. And yeah, I mean, that's probably the shortest I can summarize the plot line.
That works. Well, we don't want to spoil anything. I do recommend people watch it. I really loved the first season. And when I really like a show, I end up just not watching it for like 3 or 4 years. And then I'll just binge watch it on vacation or something like that. And I do plan to keep catch up on season 2, 3, and now 4.
Yeah. And basically with season 2 and 3, it's kind of the same plot line, but there's more characters added. It's scarier, more extreme in scale and scope, but still this concept of this portal that on the other side is a lot of not so great stuff. They call it the upside down, the other side of this alternate dimension where you go through and a lot of things will look the same to this reality, but it's oftentimes kind of like it's worn, it's run down, it's sort of like moldy almost, and sometimes it's also horrifying and terrifying. But
I do want to kind of give props to Netflix a little bit, because you got to think about it. Before Netflix came along, it was only the big 5, which was Disney, like Universal, Fox Entertainment, Paramount, and I forget the other one. It was just all movies had to go through them. And it's interesting to see an online streaming place now coming out with amazing content, because everybody now is retracting in, making their own streaming services, and they saw this coming.
Yeah. And
they knew we've got to come up with good stuff ourselves, not just some online, we'll just make a low budget film. They went for it. And I really liked the first season. I look forward to seeing the second and third and fourth. So
you're a little bit behind.
But that's what I do. That's what I do. If I really like the first season, I'll be like, I'm going to wait. Sort of like The Ozarks, which is a Netflix show as well. I liked the first season. I'm like, I'm going to wait. I mean, for Breaking Bad, I waited till it ended. And then I went through and like over a 2-month period, I watched everything back to back to back. I don't like waiting for the next season. I guess I'm patient enough to wait 8 years, but not enough to wait a month.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it certainly should look good. Season 4, and they're releasing in 2 volumes. So like half of season 4 is going to be coming out this week. And then the second half is I think in June.
That's probably smart so everybody doesn't binge watch at once.
Yeah. Yeah. They're kind of splitting it up. And I haven't heard of another show doing something like that. So I'm kind of curious.
Do you think it might be the new format?
Well, I'm curious what impact it might have on the plot line. Like I assume halfway through the season, there's going to be a bit of a cliffhanger. You don't have to wait that long and then you can, jump into volume 2. But
sometimes I hate those cliffhangers. I would stick around to watch the show for the next season. Sometimes if they leave me hanging too much, I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not watching it.
You're not emotionally ready for that.
Why do you think though that us humans have this weird like inkling to feel like there's another portal out there, there's some other dimensions? Where did the concept really come from of like alternate realities and wormholes and all that stuff? Where did it come from? I mean,
I don't know.
Is it just in our, you got to think about it. All of religions talk about there's a heavenly place. There's a spiritual world that is among us. And when we die, we go to heaven, or there's outside influences on us in a good way or a bad way. If you're thinking about portals and stuff like that, that's in itself kind of one. You talk about there's another dimension out there. And you mentioned the Matrix and people living in this matrix without even knowing. You mentioned Meta with old Facebook. Now it's Meta. What's your thoughts on just that whole thing and their future vision?
Yeah, it's really exciting. But I think like a lot of new technology at the time, like if you look back over time with new innovative disruptive tech that has come out, there's also just normal human emotional like anxiety about it. I've got that.
It terrifies me.
Yeah.
Because I know that they're really focusing on the Oculus, and right now it's games. Right now,
do you guys have the Oculus?
Oculus Quest.
You guys have two
Quest 2, yeah.
Yep.
Lots of fun.
It's really cool.
It's pretty immersive.
I've played on it.
I mean, obviously, that you're wearing the head goggles. But I think what's going to happen one day, and people think it's not far-fetched, but the reality is, it's sooner than later that it's going to be so immersive that people won't want to function in their day. I mean, look at people with just regular video games. They'll base their life, their job, their social life around their games. And I could see it being so immersive. You talk about even like Elon Musk and his Neuralink, where they're trying to get, one day, maybe it's 100 years from now, where they can actually influence and make you feel like you're actually in these things, or they can control the brain, or they're saying they're using it for in case if someone broke their back and they have no function in their lower extremities, that they can repair that. But you got to think in the future, they're going to connect the two. I mean, they have right now a monkey playing Pong. So
yeah, I always feel like with technology.
So I'm skeptic is what I'm saying.
Yeah, me too. So I always feel like with technology, there's such hope and possibility and, excitement about what it could mean and what it could be. But so often, like, we're just dumb primates. And
that's exactly what I feel like.
And it falls to like, if you look at like a lot of the content that's out on social media, that's out on I guess mostly social media, like it just appeals to the lowest common denominator in a lot of ways. Like it's just sort of like get that dopamine hit and move on. And I just always feel like we're not allowing the technical capabilities that we have to like fully flourish and to fully integrate into our lives in ways that are as productive as they could and should be. And I worry about with Meta, again, like the metaverse is this really exciting idea. And again, it's not new. It's a portal to another dimension.
It is.
Just like a lot of, that's not new to sci-fi.
Even though right now it is a dimension that's just purely digital, but that doesn't mean the reactions you have when you're in it aren't real.
Right. Yeah. And
friendships are being made, exciting. You if you lose a level, for God's sakes, when we played that zombie game, I legit got the shit scared out of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's,
but the concern I guess that I have, like it's centered around, the question of which reality are you going to choose to live in? And I think that, again, we're simple primates when it all comes down to it, like emotionally, socially. And I think that
people live in their phones right now.
I think that you're sitting in a room full of strangers, real life strangers. Almost every single person, I would say, in that room is going to decide to pull out their phone and engage with online strangers.
Yes. They
would rather watch a whole bunch of people they've never seen and will never see again do just stupid things rather than engage with real human beings in the room with them. And I'm guilty of this too, but it's become this crutch, this like social and emotional crutch. And I guess my worry is that, as things like the metaverse get more and more real, like I said, which one are we going to choose to live in? And I think that, that brings us to the conversation we had the other night, which is like, are we already there? Mm-hmm. Are we already in this simulation that is so advanced and so integrated with our own reality
that we don't know it?
That it literally is our reality and we don't know it. Like that's people talk about that too. And that's
a legit theory. People are out there, even like Elon Musk.
That's the Matrix.
Yeah. We talk about Elon Musk a lot, but he said he believed that he was like 93% likely that we're in a simulation now or that we're going to be. And I first thought that was stupid. And I was like, we're not in a simulation, but you got to think about it. Sometimes when you have a dream that's so real, you in that moment when you're waking up between the twilight of being awake and being asleep, there's a moment where you don't know which one's reality. That terrifying, bear chasing you in the woods dream. And, it's really just your kid biting on your toe, which one is it? And I think if they can make it real enough, you can confuse people. You hear scientists talk about, and I know a lot of it's just, they're trying to raise money for stuff, but
scientists are always raising money.
Well, they got to, but think about it. Let's fast forward 150 years from now, and they've got quantum computing under control, and they could, back up a little bit. Have you seen Unreal Engine 5? Some of those renders are
I've seen it because you've shown me. Yes.
Good God. They're so real looking that I'm like, wait, that's not real. And it's talking about, it's in real time rendering. It's not something you're letting rendering for 20 hours and it looks great. We're talking about real time game engine stuff that looks so realistic that it's like, wait, I'm sorry, that's not real. Fast forward 150 years from now and they've figured out some way to...
Or 150,000 years from now.
God, that's... If we're still around and some meteorite didn't come wipe us out or we didn't end up having some stupid,
Wipe ourselves out.
Yeah, wipe ourselves out. It's going to be amazing what we'll end up in. And I know it seems weird to talk about some portal, but I think one day people will have the option of being like that movie Ready Player One. Have you seen that? Where people live in like shanty little houses to spend all their money in this virtual world where they're awesome. And we see people doing that now.
So it's that's the thing is like, there was this concern with social media that sort of was similar to what we're talking about. When social media started really taking off, especially Instagram, I think there's this concern about like, and it's still there. The concern is still there. Like Facebook, which owns everything we're talking about, essentially.
Facebook, they own, I guess we should have told people they own Oculus. Yeah. Facebook owns Oculus.
Yeah. So the hardware that you actually is required to be in the like in order, sort of by definition, the metaverse is required to be in VR. Like that is part of, like, that's how you experience the metaverse. But
for now,
but yeah, Facebook, metaverse, Instagram, all this, like, it's big tech. You're trading your user information for a free service. At this point, that's, everything's still free access and free service. But, there's been documentaries that have come out. Again, it's no secret. The algorithms are not always working in the cycle. Like, they're not working in favor of your psychological benefit.
No, they're there to make money.
Yeah. And so people get led down rabbit holes. They get pushed into echo chambers. You start seeing things that, show up in your content that if you show an interest in it, they just start dumping more and more.
I remember
you get like a false sense of reality, a false sense of community. And the metaverse, it potentially could become that, where you end up wanting to spend time. And I think people do it with social too, where they want to spend time in that echo chamber. They want to spend time with that community, and that's okay. But that's how you end up with people finding the far extreme reaches of, because weird people are out there, and, that's how weird people get weirder. Like typically I think in communities there's like this balance where, if you just take a sample of 100 people in a random community, you might have a couple of weirdos, but everybody else is kind of like, hey, that's the weirdo. That's the town weirdo.
Is that you and I?
That might be, yeah. If you don't, you could be the weirdo. If you don't know who the town weirdo is, it could be
us, yeah.
But I just like, normally there's enough sort of societal pressure to kind of keep that in check and to have people sort of recognize like, oh, everybody didn't like when I said that. Everybody didn't like when I did that. Maybe I'm not going to do that anymore. Now
digitally, it's kind of been removed.
Yeah. On the web, you can real quickly find a whole bunch of other weirdos, and you get this sense that, oh, there's a bunch of us, and maybe I'm not so weird. I've found this place to belong. I've found this community that's like me. And like, that can be okay. I think oftentimes finding community is really good. But when you find a digital community of people you don't know, who are just strangers and are never really going to be more than surface level, acquaintances that you've met online, like this, it's that social media community. It's like, yeah, okay, there's a bunch of people, but like, I don't really care about these individuals necessarily, not deeply.
They may be just us because we're old.
Not like I care about you, not like I care about her. I mean, half the people on your Facebook friends list, I feel like for most people, if they dropped off of Facebook, you actually wouldn't know it anyway, because you don't see them because of the algorithm anyway. And it's not healthy. I mean, that's how.
So you feel like that if there ever is a place where the metaverse comes up and it's like this other reality for us, you don't think it's going to be incredibly healthy for us just because of, like you said, our ape brains with our own social media is how we're responding.
Yeah. Psychologically. I have worries, but those same fears, like I said, were there in the early phases of social media for a lot of people.
And the internet as well.
And the internet. And I mean, you could argue that, okay, now we're sort of experiencing some of the consequences in society of people that are, out of touch, super self-centered, can't do anything without taking selfies and posting to, their online community. But some of that people don't realize is that individuals have built very successful businesses out of their social content. And like, that's the piece where it's like, okay, I mean, we're posting, we're creating content and posting to, to our social channels and to YouTube. And, I think
it's definitely a tool, but it can also be, used in the wrong way.
I think we have a tendency to use these incredible tools in the wrong way because we're idiots.
Yeah. It's interesting how like, the internet came out and it's like some of the first stuff that was put up there was porn. It's like this amazing technology and people are like nudes, go to even like,
it's our lizard brain.
It really kind of is. I was surprised the first time I saw someone buy digital clothing for their character. Yeah. And I remember it was my brother-in-law. And I was like, he was talking about his skin, he paid $19.99 for it. I was like,
for like Fortnite, probably.
It was not Fortnite. It was some other game before Fortnite. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. Did you spend money for that? And he was like, yeah, you have to buy these clothing. And I was shocked. It was kind of just like, but that used to be free. Like when we played games back when we were younger, you would go through and you'd select the clothing. They've realized that people are willing to pay for it because it gives them online clout. Oh, you got that skin. That's awesome. And then when I come to find out, I know someone who, do you remember Clash of Clans, the game? You ever heard of it?
I've heard of it. I've never played it, but yeah.
I personally know a guy, you know him too, I'll tell you afterwards, has spent over $3,000 on this game. And it's just like when you're building like a tower or you want your walls to be stronger, it takes time in the game. It may take 4 days for it to build, but you can pay money to have it done instantly. And they're forking over just so much money. I thought that was crazy. I thought no one would ever do that. And I feel like Metaverse, I think they're a bit early. because I don't, yes, the Oculus is great, but it's not what it's going to be. I feel like there's going to be another company coming up in the future, like that second generation. That's really going to be immersive. That's really going to figure it out. And, because like Meta, Facebook, keeps trying to integrate Facebook into Oculus Quest, and Facebook is like a grandma, app. So it's like, it's kind of weird.
Grandma app.
I mean, it is. I mean, there's a reason why TikTok and, Instagram became so popular because, by the time your mom and your dad are on that app, it's like, well, it's no longer cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm like, as far as the metaverse goes, it's interesting because I'm torn. There's sort of like, I have two sides where clearly, I think I've probably made it clear. I have concerns about like sort of the fate of humanity.
Yes.
When it relates to this, what I think the metaverse could become, what we're talking about, what it could become, which is an exceptionally immersive, second reality.
Which could be teach people how to operate.
Yeah. Again,
there's so many wonderful things. Teach you how to be a pilot. I'm learning flight stuff on the Oculus.
Yeah,
it helps. There's so much you can learn. You can educate yourself and your kids through this thing. That'd be great. You don't have to worry about limiting what you can afford. If you can't afford to send them to the private school, maybe you can have a virtual version of it. And I'm just saying, there's so many things that could be good. But unfortunately, like you said, our lizard brain,
and not only will we use it to pursue, things that probably aren't always healthy, but I think what effect is the experience going to have on our brain as well, and our social relationships. We've spent many of us 2 years working from home or being, somewhat isolated compared to how life was pre-pandemic. And I know for myself, like I'm back to going into work now at my corporate job, and I still work some days from home, but it's so weird how I experience my interactions with individuals very differently in person than I experience them over Teams, over Microsoft Teams, and having conference calls.
You have more tolerance.
You have a lot more tolerance,
you can see their eyes, man.
And they're like, it's like, oh yeah, yep, human being. This is an important interaction, and it's I think that over time, you start to. I don't know why, but it's kind of like how everybody knows it's easier to like something that's a difficult conversation. It's easy to like text it, send it to somebody versus to stand in front of them and have to tell them no.
That's why people break up over text these days.
Exactly. So it's the same kind of thing. But all that said, yes, there could be some really amazing things with the metaverse. And I sort of see it like the iPhone, where the iPhone sort of came out, and we've talked about it when Steve Jobs introduced it. It was the foundation. It was a very solid foundation with a lot of capability. But the magic of the iPhone is not as a phone, or not as a web browser, or not as a music player. The magic is the ecosystem around it. It was all of these apps that came along and built on top of this platform that was the sort, like the iPhone was and still is our current portal to another dimension. And whether that dimension is, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whether that dimension is, and like
we're
work
loosely,
emails.
Yeah, we're loosely saying like dimension in the fact of like it takes you out of your reality in that moment.
Yeah,
I mean,
because it gives you access to
yes,
something else that isn't physically like in your physical presence necessarily.
Which is why I think people, when the time comes 200 years from now, when it's totally immersive and they can figure out some way to tap into your brain and make you feel like it's a real thing, that's why I think people will dive into it. I mean, look at Netflix. Look how much watch hours they have. Millions. Just people sitting
Billions,
there. Probably, yeah. Sometimes we just want to be distracted from our normal everyday life. Sometimes life sucks. And sometimes just throwing on Friends or The Office or throwing on your Oculus is just, it takes you out of that moment. And it can be great for you. But man, it's interesting. So as I see technology growing, I can just see a day where it's like, okay, I see. This is the Matrix, the prequel. I get it. Okay. It's like,
I wonder the impact on like young people though, who you and I still remember a time. We said it earlier in this show that like our childhood was closer to like what the kids in Stranger Things experience.
oh my goodness. Yeah.
We had no social media. We didn't have cell phones as kids. We're showing our age here. We're old men. But like this super connected, ecosystem, technological sort of social ecosystem that your kids are growing up in right now. And that mine are about to. You doing okay over there, pregnant wife?
Which, by the way, Aaliyah is running our show tonight because it's like 11 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
you hanging in there?
We couldn't get Bobby in.
I quit.
So we're just gonna see one camera angle the rest of the time.
It's on her, just giving us the finger.
Yeah, but it's I do worry a little bit about that impact. I mean, I think that we can separate things. We have this sort of foundation in our current human reality that was built upon, I think, our childhood, and for kids that are born into the metaverse, the time of the metaverse, it's an interesting thing. But I was going to say earlier too, in the same way, just in talking about the iPhone, how it, I think the secret to the iPhone success is all the essentially open source kind of access, all these applications. We talk about social media in the metaverse. It really only exists because of the advances of the iPhone. And not to kind of rehash some of the stuff we talked about in our Steve Jobs show, but if you haven't watched that, watch it. We just released it recently.
It's dope. Or no, it may have been done by two dopes. That's what it was.
I see what you did there. But yeah, I think the metaverse, you said this already, but just to expand on it, I mean, it's exists now really as just simply opportunity. I think that, it's a concept that hasn't quite been fully actualized yet. And
they're selling
fully,
real estate
fully realized. Yeah. So from a business standpoint, you're starting to see there's an economy that's building around it in the same way the economy built around the iPhone. So like there's NFTs, there's real estate. People can buy actual space in the metaverse.
Which is crazy because it's not real. But they know that it will make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it will.
Yeah.
And people will be thinking, why didn't I buy Manhattan when I could have for $5?
Yeah. Yeah.
By the way, it's way more than $5. But I'm just saying, but that it leads to, I'm surprised how many people will be willing, I think, to just like go fully immersive. I grew up watching Star Trek. The idea of the holodeck was just an amazing thing. And I've always wanted that. And so when I put on the Oculus Quest, they actually have a thing where you can go into the holodeck and experience how it kicks back on. And I remember just nerding out a little bit and being like, wow, this is really cool. But it's interesting. You mentioned that you wanted to talk about the Backrooms a little bit. I know we're jumping around a little bit. It's supposed to be a short podcast.
It all relates.
It all kind of relates. Okay.
We should talk more about the metaverse. We should do like a whole metaverse podcast.
I think we should.
I think that
first off, I guess Facebook changed the name to Meta, and they're having an online world that's called the Metaverse. Like you said, it has to do with NFTs. You can buy real estate in it.
Well, and I'm investigating as a marketing guy. There's some really interesting advertising implications within this. Like you can buy billboards in this virtual world. There can be product integrations where your brand is featured in the virtual world. So like whether that's, footwear, like you're talking about buying clothing, whether that's, it's not going to surprise me if, Toyota does, essentially is the first to introduce, the
cars.
I'm giving you this idea right now, Toyota, but yeah, people can be driving around in Toyota Tundras and Toyota Tacomas and Corollas and Camrys and, just as like that brand integration and brand recognition and advertising. So,
I don't think tomorrow it's going to be like people are.
No, but the potential's there.
No, but it's going to be huge. It's legit going to happen. There's going to be so much money spent in advertisement and also just selling people things in the metaverse. It's going to be a brilliant thing. And I know I'm kind of doomsday when I say, oh my gosh,
Me too.
The Matrix is coming. This is the prequel. But it's interesting. Well, to skip around a little bit, go back to the Backrooms.
The Backrooms.
We've all had that dream where we're lost in this big building. You can't seem to find a way out. There's no windows. There's just doors upon doors. And you have this anxiety that you're late for something and you don't know what it is.
This voice just makes me
all
creeped out.
This is my normal voice. No wonder my wife hates me. But you have this this oppression almost on you in this dream of like something's, yeah, thank you. Anxiety. Something's after you. Like we've all had that dream and you wake up like, whoo, that's scary. Well, on 4chan, you had introduced me to this thing where people talk about the Backrooms. They talk about how on games, when you're in a game and you do what's called clipping, where you accidentally somehow
no clipping.
Okay.
I don't know
where you get out of the game somehow and you get lost in this backroom type thing that's not part of the game. It's not, you accidentally go into a building that wasn't supposed to happen. It's a glitch in the game and you get stuck and you can't get out. Sometimes the only way you can get out is by reset.
It's like when you fall off the map.
Exactly.
Like we've all sort of, you've played a game, like either first person game or whatever, where you end up in the sort of background scenery somehow. Like you just, it's a glitch and it's.
So on 4chan, people are saying it's real and they've experienced it. So they say. And there's layers upon layers upon layers. Basically, they've written, it's almost like what you say, it's almost like Dungeons and Dragons about how people have told these stories. There's levels upon levels. Explain that to me a little bit.
Well, it's like Dungeons and Dragons or Star Trek or Star Wars or any kind of like sci-fi, like complex sci-fi universe that people can become experts in, even though none of it's real.
None of it's real. And
what's unique, I think, about the Backrooms, I feel like, is, it started as just a post on 4chan, where it was an image of an office space. There was like kind of three sort of like big office rooms, yellow walls, fluorescent lights. Really,
we'll
just
insert a picture.
Yeah, really, just kind of bland, boring. Yeah, we'll put a photo in, but it was just with a description, like three. We'll put the whole post in, but just kind of describing this sort of strange dimension that is the Backrooms, and
are they saying on 4chan that they believe we're in the metaverse? Not in the metaverse. We're in.
They were saying it exists.
It exists. They're saying we're in the Matrix, and people have accidentally non-clipped. Is that what you said?
No clipped is what they call it. Yeah.
Into these places, and so it's like that picture that you told me about. What is that? The one where like the stairs go up, but somehow end up down.
Oh yeah. So let me describe it a little bit,
because I will not be able to describe it.
Well, I had to do a little bit of research, but like you said though before, it's this concept of just anxiety. Basically, it is all these things that we don't like as humans, sort of wrapped up into this one terrifying experience, and it involves non-Euclidean architecture and shapes. So we typically, like, buildings are built with like right angles in straight lines most of the time. That it makes sense in terms of physics, like in our reality, and also just makes things easier. 90-degree right angles, whether it's door frames, hallways,
And what's non-Euclidean?
So non-Euclidean would be essentially not those things. Non-Euclidean is where the architecture really no longer makes sense, or it's like abstract. There's curves. There's sort of just odd things that wouldn't be typical in our real world architecture. So yeah, we had talked about like MC Escher paintings, and drawings. We could put some of those up there, but people are probably familiar with the duck that's also a rabbit, depending on how you look at it. Yeah. Or they've probably seen the hand drawing a hand, or the I think maybe the most related one would be the stairs, where it's like one stairwell goes into the next stairwell into the next stairwell. So
it's like upside down, but right side up.
Yeah.
It's all confusing.
So if you imagine,
it doesn't make sense.
If you imagine you're immersed in this world where that is sort of the architecture that you're supposed to navigate. And now on top of that, this concept of the backrooms, it integrates what's called liminal space, which is essentially transition space. So you think about airports, you think about malls, you think about, again, just commercial buildings and office space, kind of dark underground areas, subways. But typically in the backrooms, they are essentially void and empty. So they are familiar spaces, but they've been altered, like typically a subway station or the malls, until modern day malls are pretty empty right now. But
yeah, they're
these areas where schools, your corporate workplace, typically it'd be busy, but it's empty in this idea of the backrooms, and you're sort of wandering this strange architecture. The thing that, this is where it gets really weird, but supposedly there's these entities, these like sort of beings that exist. And that's the scary part. So that's the backrooms. It's this like weird sort of spaces that are just, they cause all this like anxiety. What's really interesting though, to me, is how it kind of came up. It was this grassroots kind of came up from nothing. Started as an image with a concept. People started piling on and building onto, and there's these forums that started where people were just adding to the idea and creating this entire sort of backrooms universe or backrooms world out of nothing. And it's been interesting to see sort of the impact on that. So there was this guy who has a YouTube channel, this young kid, I think he's like 15 or 16 when he did this, but it's he goes by Kane Pixels on YouTube. And he created one of the first and one of the most real like depictions, visual video depictions of what an experience in the backrooms would look like. And it's this young kid filming a video of his friends, and then he no clips, and he like falls through, like he trips and falls and lands in the backrooms. And you sort of see first person this whole experience. And it's very weird. It's very unsettling. And like I said, it sort of plays on all those emotional, psychological weaknesses that we have as humans that cause this anxiety.
All started with one post.
Yeah.
And now there's literally millions of posts, pictures, videos out there on the internet.
Yeah.
And I looked up, someone's trying to...
I sound like a crazy person talking about
someone's trying to make it a game on Oculus.
Well, so there have been games created.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if it's VR yet.
That's what I'm saying. Someone's trying to right now. I looked it up, and someone's actively trying to make a game in VR where there's like levels, and you have to get through, you have to get out of the no clip or whatever it is. So it's interesting how it went from a post where people say it's real to where now it's looking like it's going to be something in VR, which may end up in the metaverse one day, and maybe it will be real.
Why do you think people are so afraid of these like liminal spaces or weird architecture? Like
office spaces are very uncomfortable. They're not natural. The lighting, there's something about the fluorescent lights. They flicker because it's like an arc back and forth. It's a gas in a tube, and it's using electricity, and it's actually causing the gases to illuminate. That's a dumb man's version of what...
I guess we have some sort of fluorescent light expert here with us.
No, I am not. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't feel... It's not a natural way of seeing light, and it's uncomfortable. The quietness, the hearing the air conditionings, it doesn't feel natural. There's almost never plant life. It's just blah, and that's why these places like Meta or Facebook spend so much money to have their offices redone to just not have that. I don't know why people on the internet think that place is real. I don't know necessarily how it can go from one post to millions of posts, and now people are claiming that it's real. I don't know, man. This is a crazy concept and story, but it goes to show we're still just apes.
Yeah. I mean, but like, it seems very clear to me anyway, that like people are willing and
they almost want it.
Almost want to believe in this idea that this isn't the only reality. And maybe it goes back to, like you said, like most monotheistic sort of like one God believing religions believe in this heaven and hell or afterlife of some, some capacity. Maybe we're just wired as humans to sort of want to feel that way. But
do you think that that's this modern day's version of that same feeling? Because I'll meet people, like I joke a lot that we're in the Matrix.
I think the idea of heaven and hell is still pretty modern day too.
No, what I'm saying is you'll run into people who are atheists, but they'll believe 1,000% that they're in the Matrix, and that one day they'll wake up and they'll be like, how was the game? I think we always want to believe there's something else out there.
Well, you and I talked about this. We're not going to get into this. I'm just saying this now. We're not going to go down this path right now, but
we are.
One day we should. But you and I talked about like that. You can have a belief in God, and also have that align with sort of the simulation, because there's actually there's a lot of like overlap where the two kind of still work.
Yeah, where God says, basically, we're watching you. There's a great cloud of witnesses, and that one day you're going to be judged on what you did. And it'd be weird to wake up and God was like, all right, so you got a 6 out of 10. I guess you're in heaven.
But it's okay. We're just going to run that simulation over again.
And it happens in a fraction of a second. Did you ever see Black Mirror, the one where it was a dating app one?
So, yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I've not seen it.
That one's an interesting one because it's this whole process. It's a long episode of all these people dating each other, going through bad relationships on purpose, all to come back together and realize that they were perfect for each other. And then basically it zooms out to basically the app says 100% match or 70% match. And then they actually go on a date together. So the simulation actually was happening in the app, but it was through the whole process. I mean, this is a weird podcast for us, but I'm loving it. I wish I would have wore my tinfoil hat.
Well, the idea of, again, portals to other dimensions,
Stranger Things.
It's very almost alluring, and I think that when you look at the metaverse, we look at even Netflix. This idea of here's a bunch of content, just sit there and absorb it. I think that like we as humans like to teleport. I mean, we if you think about like how our physiology works too, when we consume fats and carbohydrates and the things that we eat are meant to typically fuel our brain first. That's why when you get tired late at night,
you want donuts.
No. Like later in the day, typically. So correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of the research that I have seen says that the reason you crave like fatty foods and high sugar foods and high carbohydrate foods, like as junk foods essentially, in the evening is because your brain is getting tired. And so your brain is saying, hey, fuel me, feed me, entertain me essentially. And so you start consuming those to keep your brain firing and your brain running, even though your body is, kind of shutting down for the day or getting tired. I think it's why a lot of times, like why people, I think it's almost like an epidemic where people don't sleep. They can't sleep because their brains are firing because they sit on this all night long, and then they get in bed and then they're, on their phone, they're doing stuff, they're engaging. So they're basically like emotionally, psychologically, a lot of people are like, they're socializing at a level as if they were at a party. Like they were at a social event, like they're engaging with people. They're having intellectual conversations. They're getting angry with people, and they're doing it all while laying with their head on the pillow. And no wonder we can't sleep. But that's happening. Even like I said, this is a portal. And I think we're already showing that we as a species, as a society, we crave that portal. We crave that,
distraction,
and also that like avenue for our brains to expend energy and to engage, and we're just willing to sort of have our bodies like just veg out and sit on the couch. And so it's like societally it's a weird thing, and it's we're headed in a interesting direction. I hope that we can make the most of it. I think that, like I said, I mean, the potential is there, and I'm excited about the idea of the metaverse from an economic and business standpoint, from a innovation and collaboration community. If if we can not be stupid primates, as we all tend to typically be, and just make the most of it, I think that, it could revolutionize humanity in the same way that I think that the iPhone has.
And with any technology, man, good and bad come from it. I mean, look at the printing press. I know it's hard to think of it as a technology now, but that changed everything.
Sure.
You could just print, and it put a ton of people out of work because there were scribes who would translate books and handwrite everything. That was their jobs. And now someone could roll some ink on, throw a piece of paper on, press it. There's a piece of paper, but it changed everything. And that's really kind of where people talk about false news and stuff like that. They were saying that that's the worst thing. This isn't true. It shouldn't be allowed to be out there. So a lot of times with new technologies, there's a lot of good and there's a lot of bad. Something that's interesting with Oculus, kind of off track just a little bit.
This whole podcast is off track.
I know it is. Mr. Beast, this is kind of interesting. He had a video where he had, how did he say it? He said, last to leave Oculus wins $100,000 or $10,000. And people were staying days in the Oculus.
Oh.
Getting sick and throwing up.
It was like the old
games.
school, like dance marathons where you had to dance with your partner for like hours.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I forgot about those.
Yeah.
That was weird. Where people were just like leaning against each other like 48 hours in.
Yeah.
So he just had a competition and people were getting sick. Some people were fine. But one of the things I've experienced when you take them off and you see your hands for the first time after hours and hours, it feels weird because there's a delay when you see your hands in the Oculus. And you get used to it. Your brain adapts to it. And then when you pull your real hands up and they move too quick, it weirds you out.
Well, that sort of maybe encapsulates this whole conversation, is that your mind is so amazing and so powerful that it allows you, it reorients itself, recalibrates, and tricks itself and tricks you into thinking that those CGI hands are now your hands. Like your brain adapts from like a hand-eye control standpoint. You're operating in this virtual world and you've adapted. So if your virtual hands are like slightly off, you get used to that. And so it's like that trick you've seen where someone puts their arm on the other side of a wall.
Oh, and then
it's like a fake arm.
And then they're putting the feather on both hands.
Yeah.
So
and then they'll like stab the fake arm. So
and people will scream.
Your brain like tricks itself into thinking like, okay, yep, that's your hand now. And so that's the crazy psychological component of this, that if your brain starts to adapt almost like long term, and then like you said, when you take the headset off, it takes a second to get back into the real world, into your true reality. So
it's weird. I think
crazy stuff.
200 years in the future, they'll also be able to, it'll be faster. Like, for example, if they ever have a way of actually tapping into how we truly receive information in our brain, not just visually, audibly, or just sensation of touch, but if they could figure out a way to actually put it in our brain, it'd be interesting if they could do like how we have with dreams, where we may fall asleep for a minute, but it feels like we were asleep for 9 hours and we had this long dream. It'd be interesting to think if we could have these experiences in faster time. You know what I mean? Don't know. Yeah. I wish I could be around 200 years from now to actually find that out.
Well, yeah. And one quick personal story that relates to this too, that I think,
I also want to talk about shrooms after this.
Do you really?
I do. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. So just as you know, but just to like share with everybody, I was in international sales. I was in international sales. I had sold a technology product when the pandemic hit, and that's an interesting time to be in international sales when like the whole world locks down.
Basically, he sold nothing.
No, we did, and that's my story. Is the global economy had to act pretty quickly to still like to prevent grinding to a halt. And so pretty quickly, as everybody may remember in the working world, like people started using typically Microsoft Teams. There was some sort of, use of Zoom and some of these other sort of video conference call options. But I think Microsoft Teams is what sort of broadly most people I think ended up using. But there's this interesting thing that happened. I sold a fairly complex technological product it was simulators is what I sold. I think I've mentioned that before here. So like think flight simulators, that pilots learn how to fly on. All this.
But for tractors.
But for heavy equipment. So whether it's tractors or whether it's enormous, mining trucks, very complex product, very immersive virtual reality and things. But we had to, not something you could just toss in your carry-on bag and go somewhere and show. But also suddenly no one could come to us and see it too. And so we reacted by, you helped with this, setting up an entire live streaming studio. And we were
multi-camera.
One of the first that I heard of anyone doing this in the pandemic. It was a skill set you and I had, this audio video stuff. And so my point is that it almost took people being forced into using like video streaming communication in order for them to leapfrog into a sales scenario where they were comfortable with seeing a product on the other side of the world through their computer, having it live streamed and having essentially a sales presentation. And it worked really well. It continues to work really well from what I understand. And I guess the point of that long story would be that people just need, I think, sometimes to like leapfrog into the next thing. And in my mind, the metaverse becomes so much more feasible and so much more believable. And you can see the potential now that we've been through the pandemic. I think pre-pandemic, the idea that, everyone would want to get together and do business and have an economy that's based entirely in the cloud. Like that seems a little far-fetched. Well, we're doing it every day now. People are having really important meetings. Top company executives no longer need to fly, to see other executives or to meet with other big time businesses.
It's become acceptable.
A lot of times they do, but it's become acceptable. It's not like it's like this rude or dismissive thing. It's the idea that, I can wake up at 8 a.m. and I can have a meeting with somebody on the other side of the world. And then by lunch, I can meet my wife for lunch. We can have a lunch date. And then I can go meet with somebody, on the other side of the country. And I can do it all either from home or, from the office. In my case, I remember there were days where we would meet with, 3 or 4 different clients on different continents to show our product from that live streaming studio. So,
and you're talking about hard money, real money, virtually. It was looked down upon as if it wasn't like you cared enough to go meet the client, since you were selling a very expensive thing.
It was like socially acceptable.
But it was forced. We were forced into it. I mean, we had my son's first birthday was virtual. Everybody FaceTimed in. I think you were there. Were you there for that? Just to be on the
virtually
singing happy birthday
in person?
I think maybe you came in person. His first birthday. Either way, it's not important. But we had a thing where everybody called in. They wished him happy birthday. He was weirded out. He was like, why are all these screens around me? Why is everybody talking? But
that's his first birthday,
that was
by the way.
His first birthday. Yes. Yeah. And what's interesting,
he's experiencing that.
I mean, you had people from young all the way up to old, grandmas, grandpas, functioning, doing this thing, forced into it. Yeah. I mean, we see that often where technology is either introduced and it takes a long time to adapt, or they're forced into it like that. So all this podcast, to wrap it all up.
Wrap this thing up, because we're just...
Yes. It comes down to, like I said, shrooms.
Wrap it up with shrooms conversation.
It's interesting. It really isn't shrooms. It's we talked about DMT before. We've talked about It's a psychoactive drug. People say it helps with PTSD, depression, all this stuff. Anyways, I know nothing about it, but they talk about how it takes you to almost another portal. And there's beings they call the elves, which scares the crap out of me. then you get a bunch of wisdom from it, blah, blah, blah. I know nothing about it. I've never done it.
Is that where just basically everything in sci-fi comes from? Is just people
probably.
On acid
DMT?
trips?
Yeah. But my thing is like, I think there's something in our nature that loves the thought of this other dimension, this other portal. That's why Stranger Things, we love it so much. There's this portal that's within our world. It's right there. It's in our grasp. But thank goodness, if we close that portal, it no longer can get us. Look at what was it? No, what's the one where? Oh, I forget. Interstellar, I believe it's called.
Yeah,
with that portal where, spoiler alert, he is the alien that comes back in time and helps them get off the Earth because the Earth is being destroyed. Watch the movie; you'll understand what I'm talking about. But I think we as humans love this idea of a portal, of another dimension, whether it be the Matrix, Stranger Things, the Metaverse, what's to come, all the scientists that really want to make it so immersive that you forget, and when I use that word, it scares me, that you forget that you're in a simulation. And there's people who believe we're in a simulation. So, and even with like religion, there's another world outside of us, something about the human psyche and the human condition. We love the idea of portals and other dimensions. And that's just amazing. Why do you think that is? Do we just want something more than us out there? And we're afraid that we're finite?
Yeah, probably.
And we're on this rock floating through space and space is expanding.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just, I think it's natural to always think, is there, people are always questioning, is there more to life? And,
which I think there is.
Yeah, we both do. But I think,
and it's meta.
This podcast brought to you by Metaverse.
No, I'm not invested in Meta. No, I'm not actually. I sold out a long time ago. When he changed the name, I was like, yeah, I'm out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I totally did.
There's a lot of people that think it's just going to flop because, again, it's
too early.
It's still in a concept phase. Yeah. But I think just like you had talked about Netflix sort of, realizing, hey, we should start building our own content before anybody else does, just to sort of corner the market and sort of capitalize on the idea. There's people that say that's really what the metaverse is right now. It's just it's Facebook sort of societally locking down the idea with the hopes that it will grow into it. But who knows?
Mark Zuckerberg, what he should do is fund another company, a ragtag group of people that start their own thing. And because it's not associated with Facebook or Meta, it'll be cool and he'll still have control of it and people will flock towards it. Because sometimes, people just, I don't know why, always, because I don't know too much about him, but people hate Mark Zuckerberg. People think he's a lizard alien. They really do.
We need to do a show on him.
We'll do a show on him.
Yeah.
He's brilliant in his own way. He's just awkward, socially awkward, and so am I. So I can relate. Should we wrap this up?
You also have like your go-to t-shirts like he does too.
You know what? Literally, my closet is full of black clothing. I am not very creative in my wardrobe. I'd rather be creative when making videos and songs. So my life is easier this way. I wake up. What shirt should I wear?
That's why he does it, right?
The black one. I don't know why he does it. I'm not
think
trying to be like Mark Zuckerberg.
Well, we'll find out. We'll do our podcast.
I need to work on my water drinking. I can't even do it robotic like he does. In his defense, he was being like questioned by Congress and he was probably nervous.
A little nervous.
He was a little nervous, a lot nervous.
Yeah.
Anyways, wrap this up for me.
Wrap
this crappy podcast. I'm just kidding. Why'd you laugh so hard?
That's what she said.
I apologize.
We got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. If you are still with us at this point,
oh my gosh,
God bless you.
Yes.
I'm not even sure we're with us at this point, but
thank you. Yeah. Well, I'm going to interrupt real quick. This was a fun podcast only because it's different than what we normally talk about.
Yeah, it's a little different.
Watch Stranger Things. It's out tomorrow.
Watch Stranger Things. Check out the Metaverse. Avoid the Backrooms at all costs. I don't think you can get out of there.
And don't go down the 4chan rabbit hole. You'll be there for 6 hours later and believing that you're in it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway, thanks for joining. We appreciate it. Chasing Mountains Podcast. Like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for being a part of this podcast. Please leave a comment with your questions or business endeavors. We would love to be a part of your journey. If you would like to hear more, please like and subscribe. The thoughts and opinions on this show do not reflect those of our advertisers, employers, or other affiliates. The content should not be considered legal or financial advice. The Chasing Mountains podcast is a production of Chasing Mountains Media. Copyright 2022.